What is going on? Welcome back to your Lake Fork Guide and the Fish Life podcast, also known as the lowest budget, actually live.
That's it.
The L Ball. Welcome back, all you low ballers. Man, what a night we have tonight. Obviously, one of the best days of the year is when the Bassmaster Elite Series comes to Lake Fork. We just witnessed something all-time great with Lee Livesay, and Patrick Walters had a pretty good weekend as well. And guess what? We're going to be live with Patrick Walters on tonight's podcast while he's driving away from Lake Fork. Hopefully he doesn't cry on the air because he's having to drive away from Lake Fork. We're going to talk to Patrick live tonight. We're going to get into all the goods that went down.
That's right.
At Lake Fork.
There's quite a bit. There's quite a bit.
It might be a long one, folks. There's a little bit of material to discuss. Chris.
Can I tell him something real quick?
Of course.
Do us a favor. This is going to be a very special Fish Life podcast. So what I need you to do is I need you to hit that subscribe button, smash that bell, share this thing, send it to all your buddies. Tell them to come join us along for the ride. Pop your popcorn, get you a nice soda water or alcoholic beverage, your choice, and let's go for a ride.
That was pretty good.
It wasn't bad.
I think you kind of nailed that. I think you borderline nailed that.
It wasn't bad.
Cheers, y'all. It's Sunday night. We're talking about Lake Fork Bassmaster Elite Series. Let's go.
Hey. So, can we just address the elephant in the room?
Which one? Which one?
Okay, you told me I need to start firing back at you.
Yeah.
I was right.
About
the number of 100-pound bags.
Yeah, and I was right about other stuff, but yeah, you were right about that.
That's right.
You did say it was going to be two.
I got it right.
2 Century Clubs. I actually guessed it at 5.
That's right. Now, I will say.
I was really close to being right. Like, there was a lot of guys right there.
And I knew, and the tournament was not decided by 5 pounds in the 1st through 5th, like I said. So, kudos to Lee. That was incredible.
We're going to get into all that. I do want to do one thing before we start diving into the tournament. I got to give a few shout outs actually. First to Dave Mercer. Watches the podcast. But man, this week I've been in constant communication with Dave about the event. And Dave has given me shout outs on the air. He's given me, I now have a Bassmaster Dave Mercer nickname, which is something I never thought I would achieve in my life. But I do now. And I'm from now on known as Sideshow Billy Lawless. So
that's right.
Welcome to the Sideshow, folks. This show is going to have like so many names by the time we're done.
I know.
Anyway, Sideshow Billy Lawless, president accounted for. Big shout out to Dave Mercer. Dave also reached out to somebody at Bass, a lady named Mandy. Miss Mandy was able to get me media credentials and get me behind the scenes during the weigh-ins. I was behind the stage today. I was behind the stage yesterday. I got to talk to as many of the anglers as I could and got some great footage of the weigh-in line and those big fish they brought to the tanks today. We got footage of all that. Man, it was really one of the coolest experiences of my life as far as the fishing industry goes. I mean, there's other things in life that are more important, like kids and stuff like that.
Right.
But as far as my fishing experiences go, even though I've been fortunate to catch some really big bass, one here recently, I can't really remember anything that was more memorable and cool than what went on for me this week. So it's been a great week. And just the Bass organization, man, when you get behind the scenes there, like everybody involved with that organization, it really does feel like a big family back there, and it is like a super friendly, accommodating family. It's unbelievable. The atmosphere, with all those guys competing at the highest level, you would think there would be some
knuckleheads,
alpha male competitive stuff. There's nothing.
Yeah.
They're all hugging each other, slapping high fives, joking about the day. Like, it is the coolest thing ever to go behind the scenes and see those guys and the way they interact with each other and just the way the whole organization functions and treats you. Big shout out to Bess, big shout out to Miss Mandy, and big shout out to the MC, Dave Mercer. Thank you to all those folks. Fine folks there, as we say.
Show them your cool deal you showed me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because it's an expired one, but it worked. So
Homie, we made it.
They gave me a media credential. Look where it's from. It's from the Classic.
Yeah.
It's actually from the 2020 Classic.
It doesn't matter.
I have Bassmaster Classic media credentials.
That's
Something
right.
else I never thought I would have in my life.
Let's go.
Let's freaking go. That Let's Go is just for you, Renner. And where are we going? Behind the scenes at Bassmaster.
Hey.
That's where we're going. That's an inside joke. If you follow Douglas Renner on Facebook, you know what I'm talking about. Man, we got a lot to get to tonight. I want to get Patrick on the phone. I told him we'd be texting here in the next 5 minutes or so. So as far as the tournament recap go, there's a few highlights that we got to discuss. And I want to let you guys know something. I did a very in-depth breakdown video like we did in the fall. We've got that coming out tomorrow night. I've got a ton of amazing footage from behind the scenes, amazing interviews with the anglers. We're going to go to the spots where the tournament really happened. where the interesting stuff in the tournament happened. We go to all those spots. We break down what's under the water for you guys, the stuff you couldn't see on the live coverage. So we are going to get into that on tomorrow's video. So if you want more detailed coverage and breakdown coverage and helpful instructional stuff, be sure you tune in tomorrow for that video. I'm sure Patrick's going to break some stuff down for us like he always does, and that's going to be educational later tonight too.
Oh, yeah.
So stay tuned for that as well. A few things I want to talk about. A, Lee Livesay, congratulations. Congratulations, my man. Just home lake, Bassmaster Elite Series, lifelong dream, and to do it on your home lake, incredible. That doesn't happen very often. It's hard to win on your home lake a lot of times. And there's some really cool statistics about this day, because 42 pounds is extremely special in and of itself anytime it happens. To have that happen on a tournament day of any kind is like mind-blowing luck. I mean, there's a lot of just, wow, how did I get this lucky to have this day today?
Wow factor.
Then on Championship Sunday, when you're in contention, within range, and it just all these things. Guys, this was the third biggest single bag in Bassmaster history. There's only been 2 other days that were better than Lee's day today in the history of Bassmaster. This was the biggest topwater bag ever filmed. Period. Like, period. The biggest topwater day ever on camera. This was also the biggest tournament bag that was covered live and covered on camera in the boat in Bassmaster history. The other 2 bags that were bigger didn't have a camera in the boat. So Lee Livesay has now submitted himself. He is officially, and he was always headed this way, but it's a done deal now. He is a Lake Fork legend. He is now on the Mount Rushmore of Lake Fork for me.
Agreed.
What he just did today is all time. It is all time special.
That's right.
What we just witnessed is something that's going to be talked about forever in the history of bass fishing.
That's right.
Just like the Dean Rojas bag is, just like some of the Paul Elias record is. Some of these things, they're just crazy that we've seen over the years.
So, if my memory serves me correctly, who was one of the other 40-pound, or one of the other big bags? Was it Kennedy?
No. The second biggest bag, I believe, it was Santee Cooper, and I don't even remember the guy's name. He didn't hang around that long
Jason
in the Elite
Williamson?
Series. No, he ended up winning the tournament, and I don't remember what the guy's name was. He wasn't like one of these guys that won a lot after that. He kind of flashed, and then he stayed around, and I don't really know how long he stayed around. I just know I don't ever remember him doing a whole lot else significant.
Got you.
After that, but I was also in the Marine Corps at that time, so I didn't get to watch very many fishing tournaments.
I was curious because they did show a Bassmaster stat during the live broadcast on FS1 this morning, and they did talk about the Steve Kennedy bag. They did talk about the Jason Williamson bag, and I was just curious if it was one of those 2.
Preston Clark's the guy with the second biggest bag. There you go. The guy. Yep. So, yeah, Lee is that guy. Dean Rojas on Toho. That guy on Preston Clark on Santee Cooper. Then Lee Livesay on Lake Fork on Championship Day on his home body of water.
Let's go.
The flotilla that was rolling around. Like, we're going to cover all this in depth in tomorrow's video. So we're going to kind of skip through the highlights because we want to get to Patrick. But holy crap, man. Lee, unbelievable. You are officially, in my opinion now, not that that matters for anything that matters, but you are an all-time Lake Fork legend. You're on, like, it's you, and it's Mark Pack, and it's Kelly Jordan, and it's Mark Stevenson, and that's pretty much the Lake Fork Mount Rushmore these days. Terry Scroggins. Mercer's texting us. Mercer's watching. Mercer, I appreciate the help. Mercer just texted me. Terry Scroggins had the 44.4, not Preston Clark.
Big show.
Big show. Terry Scroggins had the 44.4. That was on Falcon though, wasn't it? I believe that was okay. So on the Santee Cooper, none of those were above Lee's bags. Those Santee Cooper bags.
No,
because they had some 40-pound bags in that Santee Cooper event.
There was a Santee Cooper tournament that somebody hit the century mark.
Oh, they went way over the century mark. Like it was, and there was, I believe there was like 40-pound bags in that. No. I don't know. Maybe Mercer will text me and correct me again because I'm spewing all kinds of falsehoods right now.
Oh, Lord.
Here's what I know. Lee caught the third biggest bag ever. So, awesome stuff, Lee, man. Congratulations one more time. I tell you what. I told him we'd be calling him by now, so we need to get him on the phone. Let's go ahead and dial up Patrick Walters.
Do we want to say his nickname?
Well, we're going to ask him first. We got to ask. You know, with a guy like Patrick, you got to ask permission. Most people just ask forgiveness, but then permission. But Patrick Walters in the house. Let's go.
Man, guys, what's going on?
Hey, have you had to refrain the tears as you drive away from Lake Fork?
No, it's been an easy pill to swallow. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you're gonna get beat, I'd rather get beat by a 42-pound sack and by a guy named Livesay. That dude, I'm telling you, I'm happy for him. I'm telling you, truly, I wouldn't want anybody else to win that one. I mean, third time on the home pond. I know how much time he's put into it. And he deserved it. When you catch 42 freaking pounds, I mean, I'm just mind blown still that he caught 42 pounds. Like, I mean, I know it's Fork and they live there, but holy crap.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt, man. This is all time stuff. That's what we've been talking about the first 10 or 15 minutes of this podcast is this is all time. What we just witnessed today was an all-time show. Now, to clarify, when I asked you about the tears, I wasn't talking about your second place finish. I was actually wondering if you're actually like shedding a tear because you're having to leave Lake Fork.
To tell you the truth, I'm kind of glad Lee won because it would have been a hard conversation if I would have won that tournament to convince my wife to, hey, babe, I think we're moving to Texas.
Oh, yeah.
And I know how stubborn she is, and she's like, I'm not leaving South Carolina. I'm
Right.
like, well, I'm going to Texas, babe, with or without you.
I heard you kind of allude to it on the live, Patrick, and I was seriously thinking, like, well, if he needs some help finding lots, I'd be more than happy to help him.
Yeah. Like, hey, I got a boat shop and a shed with electricity if you need a spot, dog.
Yeah, I might be definitely paying y'all a visit soon because, God, that place, it truly is phenomenal how much pressure it gets and that the fish are as healthy as they are. I mean, I've never caught that short and fat a fish in my entire life.
Yes, it's known for that, man. It has some butterballs, some real butterballs. The young fish, you know, and I'm sure you saw this. I was fortunate enough to catch a really, really big one recently. I caught an 11-pounder. And the thing that shocked me the most about that fish was it was barely over 25 inches long, really, really fat and healthy, weighed 11 pounds even. And the smallness of its head compared to its body and how small the eyes were. Because, Patrick, you'll know this. Those fish, when they start getting older, that's when those eyes start bugging out. People think that just because a fish weighs 10 or 11 pounds, it's going to have bug eyes. Not always. If it's a younger fish, the eyes don't necessarily bug out. But that fish had the smallest eyes by far I've ever seen on a fish anywhere near that big. And it had like a tiny head compared to its body. And I was like, how big is she going to get?
Truly, I think the shad are on steroids. I feel like these bass are just swimming around with their mouths open at all times. I mean, you nowhere else in the country can you just throw big baits. It's like when you come to Fork, you kind of have to throw everything out of the window. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, we're going to throw glide baits all week. Like, that doesn't happen anywhere else you go. I mean, we're at Sabina. It's like, man, I better pitch a dang wacky worm or like a 3/16 out Texas rig and try to catch 5 keepers, you know. Here's like, no, glide bait all day or die. I mean, it's mind-blowing that these fish are swimming around just eating 24/7.
I'll tell you what shocks me the most about Fork, honestly, is the amount of fish that are sub 5-pound range that are willing to try and attack that glide bait, too.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy. It's like, if you can get 3 fish in a group paired up, one of them's going to eat that thing.
That's right.
Like, one's got to hit it. Like, they're just like, they don't know any better. Like, they're like being trained like, hey, we're building y'all to eat. So when we put you in this lake, y'all just start eating everything you see. Like, I'm honestly scared to swim in there because I feel like one would attack your foot.
I mean,
it's like if it's moving, they're gonna try to eat it.
Maybe. They definitely grow up mean. I mean, as Lee put it, there's a bunch of baby whales swimming around in that pond. And when these bass are young, like, it's kind of a kill or be killed environment. You know what I mean?
It really is. I'm telling you it. And seeing what I saw today, there is definitely some killer whales in this pond.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's a lot of turtles, too.
Sharking a topwater, God, that was unreal.
Yeah.
What a day.
Hey, I heard, I didn't get to see this. I was actually running around the lake filming stuff today for a video that I'm going to put out on the tournament tomorrow. But my partner here informs me that the kinder side of Patrick Walter showed up, and you helped one of our hard-shelled friends today.
Okay, I had 31 pounds at the point, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I'm so close to like having a great tournament. Like, you know, I did what I needed to do. I needed to catch 30 pounds. I was like, I need to catch a 10-pounder. Probably should have stayed on what I was doing, but that's hindsight. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to the bank and look for a 10-pounder on the bed. And I start running pockets, and I get in the back of one. I mean, it was like 45 turtles come off this little wall. And there's like a little sand embankment. And I guess one of them flipped over and was on his back. And I didn't even see him. I already was like in reverse kicking out. And Craig, my marshal, was like, oh, God, that turtle's stuck. And I looked over there and I was like, dang, Craig, like you had to say something. And I see my wacky worm over there to it and like snagged it the first time and it like pulled him in the water, but it didn't get him in the water. And he still, I mean, his legs are just like flailing and he can't get in the water. And I was like, oh, God, like I'm going to have to try to catch this turtle. And I was like, well, I'm already kind of backing up. Like, I'm not going to go get him. And then I was like, well, I should just leave. And I'm like, no, I can't just leave this turtle. You know, like I thought about it. Like, that would just be terrible. And I threw over there like 7 times. And then I finally snagged the sucker. And gently, though, it was a firm snag. And dragged him into the water and unhooked him and released him free to go. So I thought, I was at that point, I was like, I'm definitely about to win the derb. You know, I did my good deed of the day. I just got to go get your 10-pounder now.
I'm sitting there watching live, and I'm watching this go down, and I'm like, I mean, that's karma. That's good karma.
Good karma. Good karma. Well, you got good karma. And honestly, brother, I got to say, like, you've had good karma all year, man. Your year has just been insane so far. Where are we at? I haven't even looked yet. Do you know where it's at between you and Seth on AOY after today?
I think he still got me by a couple points. I don't know what it was coming into the tournament, but I don't even know what I was back after Sabine. But Seth is having a fantastic year.
Yes, he is.
Kudos to him, dude. That's 2 top 10s in Texas. He's going to be hard to compete with. You know, just going neck and neck with him this year.
Not much.
We're going to Neely Henry next, and then Gunnersville. And then we're going to his neck of the woods up north. So he's hanging with me in here. I got to make sure I step my game up and lean on him up north this year.
Well, brother, I got to.
The thing is we 2 tournaments instead of 3, so I like those odds.
Right. So I got to tell you, man, it is about as close as it can possibly get. We just pulled it up, and it's 436 to 432. You are 4 points is the only thing separating y'all, which, for those that don't know, that's extremely tight in an AOY race.
Oh my gosh, that's 4 places in the next tournament. You know, like you could finish 30th and be like, okay, I had a good tournament, and he makes the top 10, and that's 20 points.
Right.
I mean, and so I mean, the top 30 is not a bad finish. So it's 4 points is wow, that is pretty tight.
Well, man, just keep after it. Know we're pulling for you. Of course, we would love to see Seth do well as well. I mean, he's an awesome freaking dude. I got to talk to him a little bit. He's got to be the most laid-back professional anything I've ever met.
100%. Seth is a darn good dude. I like Seth a bunch. And I wish everybody the best. You know, if you win something, you want to make sure you beat the best when they're doing the best.
Right,
agreed.
And if Seth wins this year, I want him to make sure he knows he had a hard-fought battle. I want everybody to get him. And Seth is 100% laid back. You can't tell if he likes you, hates you, like if he's having a good time or what. He's just like, man, just happy to play here.
That's right.
Catching slump is, laid back. Like you can't tell when he's excited.
I don't know if you've been able to see the highlights yet, and I know you didn't see it when it happened, obviously, on live coverage this morning early. Have you heard about him catching the 2 at once right off the bat this morning?
I just heard about it not long ago. I have not seen anything yet.
So
were they big ones?
They were pretty good. I mean, they weren't. I mean, listen, by Lee's standards, they were nothing. But
we can't compare to those. That was just ungodly.
Right. So the coverage that we were watching, because Lee's deal was kind of exploding the same time that Seth did this. So he caught 2 at once and was like really cool. And I don't remember how big they were, but they looked to be like 3 to 5 pounds each. They were good ones, And It was kind of a struggle to land them. He gets them both in. And what the funny part was is that happened, and in a normal broadcast, you would be like, people would be freaking out, and the dude like Zona and them were just like, oh well, that's neat. Back to Lee Livesay. Here goes another 9-pounder on a thing.
It's like, oh, he just caught a double. Yeah, we don't need to see him weigh those. Like next.
Right. Just move over to Lee. He just caught a 7. Now he's got an 8, and he's about to catch a 9 on a topwater bait.
Yeah, you're like, what? You need a cold beam to weigh these.
Like that coverage,
God.
and we've had comments tonight coming in on the live stream and that said this, and I agree. Like the coverage that was live this morning between Lee just landing on the mega school right off the bat, and Seth Fighter catching the double, and then right soon after that, you get going and get a roll going, and you start rolling. This was the best live fishing broadcast like ever, bro. Like ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it was just giants coming in one after another, and you were right there in the middle of it. And like always, dude, it's before we go any further in this, I still got plenty more to talk to you about. But man, thank you for always being so cool with us, man. You've always been so nice to us, and it was awesome to see you today and get to holler at you a little bit. We sat behind the stage and shot the breeze while you were holding a giant in the tank, waiting your turn. And I just appreciate you always being friends with me, bud.
Man, not a problem, man. It's a pleasure. I'm glad I got somebody in Texas I can call a friend. You know, that's what I'm here for. I love to talk fishing. You guys know that. But yeah, it's that whole tournament as a whole. But no, that's what I'm here for. When y'all want to talk fishing, and especially Lake Ford, y'all just I know who to call. I'll be happy to talk about it because the more just that place in general, and I heard the live was amazing this morning. I'm excited to kind of go back and watch it a little bit. I usually don't ever go back and watch live much, but
Oh yeah.
I heard it was on. It started out. They said the first 18 minutes was like they didn't know what to do. And if somebody catches a double and they're like, "That's not even news."
Right.
That's pretty unreal.
Yeah, it was crazy, bro. It was definitely crazy. I want to kind of get into some of the more in-depth stuff as far as, what you saw in the tournament and your experience there. So the first thing I just kind of wanted to ask you was, like, when you went into day one, you started down there on that main lake point outside the mouth of Little Canyon. That's actually, that state record point is what I've always called it because you were fishing the shallower part of it, but further out on that point is where the state record was caught in 1991. So I heard you that morning talking about how your original plan was you were going to do that for the first hour or two, and then you were kind of planning on getting on the bank and looking at them. So after practice, you're going into day one. Where was your head at? Tell us what you were thinking.
In practice, I could get one glide bait bite in the morning in about the first hour, and then that was it. Like I got one each morning, and then for the rest of the day, I couldn't get bit on it. And I found a bunch of fish on bed all over the entire lake. No matter where you went, there were probably 15 fish minimum in each pocket. Like it was unreal. So I had marked a bunch of beds, and honestly, I was like, I'm just gonna go blind bed fishing. Like just go find new bedders every single day and run where some old ones were at. And on that point you're talking about, the first day of practice, I pulled up there and threw a glide bait out there and caught one about 7 pounds, and then had one a little bit bigger than that one trying to eat the glide bait out of his mouth. And I was like, dang, this spot must be pretty good, like 300 yards that way. Like, I know it's good because that's where I just caught him in the ball.
Right.
I think Sirius just got him. I was like, I'll probably start here, Like, that was it. Like, I had one bite and saw another fish. I was like, I know this area's got to be good. And then I was like, I'm just going to go bed fishing for the rest of the day. And I started out that morning. I was like, I'm just going to try to catch one big fish, get one in the live well, just have that in the bank, and then go try to catch 18 pounds of bed fishing to get them to 20 pounds. Because after practice, I'm telling you, I was like, man, if I can get 20 pounds, I'm going to be happy. And I knew things were changing every single day. We had that moon coming. The water was changing. I pulled up and threw a glide bait out there and caught like a 7-1 and was like, okay, like, damn, we actually did what I was trying to do was catch just one. And I said, well, let me throw a jerkbait out there, see if we can catch another one. And sure, she had caught a 7-2, and I was like, wow, that's 2 for 14 pounds. I was like, if we do this for the rest of the day, like, we could have a bag. And I was like, well, let me go hit some other points real quick and see what it looks like. And went to another point and caught a 2-pounder real quick, and then threw back out there and caught a 4. And I was like, well, I got one bed fish I want to go check on. Let me go check on it. And it was right around the corner. It's right there by Oak Ridge Marina. And I pulled in there, and Matt Heron was sitting on it.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, and, I'll let him have it. And turns out later that night, I found out he caught that bedfish, and it was an 811, and he caught it on the first one.
Oh.
The first, she was ready. And I was like, wow, if I would have caught that fish. And so right when I left him, I went back to my start point and saw one suspended off of the drop to the jerkbait over there to her, caught her. She was like 814, and then caught one more 5-pounder, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That happened pretty quick, and that was probably by 10 o'clock.
Yeah. So on day one, you were leading the tournament with 32 pounds and 14 ounces, but you really, I think, would you only catch like 6 or 7 fish that day, right?
Yeah, I caught a couple small ones. Other than that, like I went into the Little Caney and fished the point that I caught them on today around, say, 12 o'clock or so. I caught one. It was like 3-2. We didn't even weigh. I think we weighed it. We didn't write it down. I caught it on a shaky head, and then caught like a couple other like little 2-pounders. But I didn't catch a whole bunch of fish. Like I was kind of surprised. I was like, man, we caught 32 pounds, but we actually had to work for them.
Right.
And then day 2 was a struggle within its own. I guess they pulled water or something. I don't know what happened, but I didn't adapt the way I needed to. And I actually didn't go into Little Caney, which I thought was like my best area that I was kind of saving, until 1:20. And we were doing it 2 o'clock that day, and I had 4 fish at 1:20. And I pulled back there, caught my 5th one on the first cast, and then caught a 2-pounder and cold up on my last cast, and was like, yeah, I probably should have kicked in here a little sooner.
So what?
Like 17 pounds.
So what was it? So day 1 you go out there, and we cover that, and then day 2 you go out there and you start out there on state record point, which also in the live coverage on day 1 when you started catching donks out there, they started putting little pig logos up where you'd caught them out there on the live coverage on the map. And I think we'll just start calling. I think we're just going to rename that the pig pen. That's just what we're going to call it. So you're out there on the pig pen on day 1. It goes well. You start in the pig pen on day 2. What was it that made? Because you stayed in that area for a long time on day 2. What was it that was making you stay there? Even though you were struggling there.
To tell you the truth, I fish a lot of herring lakes. I know you got to run and gun a lot of times, but I pulled up. I caught one right off the bat. It's like 1.5 pounds. It was like 1.5, I think. And I was like, that's weird. That fish literally should not be out here. Like he's probably going to get 8 when I release it.
Yeah, some swimming out here is going to eat you.
Got there. And caught an 8-12,
right?
And I was like, "Whoa, it's about to go down." And I was like, if I sit here for a good bit of time, like every fish you catch is huge. So I was like, if I just catch 3 more, like I got all day to catch 3 fish off of this spot, I'll have 25 pounds guaranteed. And the problem was, you could see them swimming around like crazy. Like there were so many fish on that point; they were right off of the drops. Every now and then one would maybe bust. They weren't chasing shad to like schooling real good, but they'd be kind of swimming around, and then they'd show interest in your bait, and they'd come almost eat it, but they wouldn't commit. And so it was that false hope that kept me there all day long. Where I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, hey, just go to the bank and catch you 18 pounds, Go catch, you can go catch you 20. There was that many fish on the bank, but it was like 30 pounds or bust. I just feel like that's what lived there. And it was just the fact of just trying to hit that home run, and it truly just struck out day 2 and didn't adapt as much as I needed to kind of keep me in it.
So we go to day 3.
That's when you said that when you catch 100 pounds, and you're like, yeah, it struck out,
Right. Yeah. Well, Brandon Cobb had that kind of same thing in 2019 where he had one of those days like that the same way, but the rest of the tournament he just blasted them. Anyway, so we go into day 3, and you do adjust. Now, if I'm correct, I think you still started down there on day 3. Is that correct?
I did. I did start on that point because I was like, man, I think they pulled water on day 2. Something was different. I could tell because the whole weight in the entire, like the weight as a whole for the field was down. So I knew it wasn't just me because I knew the fish were there.
Yes.
I knew the big fish. I just knew they didn't bite because Leo even had 17 pounds.
Yes.
And that's the one thing I love about Lake Fork is that you're never out of it. You can always make a comeback because that many big fish live in that pond. And I started on that point day 2. I think I caught a 5 and a 3. So I started off with like 9 pounds on that point, and I was like, hey, that's not too bad for 2 fish. And then ran around and tried to do some different things for a little bit, and at 10 o'clock I had those 2 fish done. I was like, you know what? Instead of waiting until 1 o'clock like I did yesterday, let's go into Little Caney from the get-go and go get me 17, 18 pounds and, set myself where I can make it to day 4, hopefully. And pulled up on a dock, caught 2 right away. And then I was going to the next dock, and I just panned over there, and I was like, dang. Them suckers are setting up on them trees. Like, don't do me dirty like that. And I catch one of my 5 pounds, and I catch a 4-pounder, and I'm like, man, they're in the trees. And so day 2, I basically fished timber and ended up catching 22 pounds. And I lost a 7-pounder on that back point where I caught him today at. I went back there, caught a good one, and then lost that one. And I was like, man, I thought that kind of knocked me out of it a little bit. But that was when I was like, you know what? I'm going to start on that point tomorrow in the back of Little Caney. And when we blasted off this morning, I talked myself out of it. I was like, no, go back and start on the big 10 just in case. I had 5 for 9, or 2 for 9 yesterday. I was like, let's just start there. And I set the boat down, and I'm telling you, like an 8-pounder blew up chasing a gizzard shad when I set the boat down. And I was like, shoot, dude, they're going to eat freaking topwater today. Like, that was the first time I see one, like, truly eat. And I threw the glide bait in there, nothing. Threw the topwater in there, nothing. Went, like, hit 2 or 3 points real quick and didn't catch much. And I was like, let's roll in the back of Little Caney. And I was like, wow, there's more boats back here than I thought. Because I knew Lee was fishing the island, and I thought he was fishing in the afternoon, but he was already on it. And then Capo was on that one point that I really wanted to go to. So I pulled on that back point, caught one on the jerk bait, but it was kind of slow. And I picked up that topwater, and it was, they were like committing suicide on this thing.
Now, go ahead.
But you couldn't burn it, which blew me away.
You couldn't what now?
You couldn't burn it. Like, you couldn't work it fast. Like, back home, I'm like, I'm like ripping across the water. Like, I would pause it, and then one would just come in there and engulf it.
I saw you were pretty mind blown on the live when they were eating it on the pause. You were like, I can't believe it. They're eating it on the pause.
Well, and
they're eating it on the pause. They don't ever eat it on the pause at home. Like, at home, like, you have to go Mach 1 to get them to bite that sucker.
Yeah.
Man, it's like there's something about these giant bass on Lake Fork. I don't know if it's just laziness, because they're not lazy when they eat it. They crush it. You've seen it. But like with customers, I always tell them with that spook deal, and I've been waiting on that to start because everything's been so delayed. Normally by now we're on that deal, but this year everything that started happening while y'all were here. It wasn't happening when y'all got here, and now y'all left here and it's happening. But with customers on that spook bite, I always throw those big spooks on there, and I tell them there's almost a pause between your walks. So it's like instead of twitch, it's like twitch, and you almost put a little bit of a pause in that cadence on each walk, and it's like, man, that's the way they just, if you slow it down, they just come unglued on it. And same thing you saw today. Now the point that you caught most of your bigger fish on today, was that was the point that Quentin Capo was on when you got there this morning, is that right?
When I got there this morning, yeah, he was on it.
And that's where you caught most of your big fish? Yeah.
Yep, I caught 2 4-pounders on that one by that boat landing in the back.
Yeah.
And once I left that, because Quentin came and joined me on that one, once he left that spot, and then when he joined me, he left, and then he completely left Little Caney, and I was like, well, now that it's settled down, I'm going to go back and fish that other point. And I think I threw the jerk bait across the fort first, of course. I had to, just me being stubborn. I think I threw a glide bait, and then I picked the top water up, and it had like they had never seen it.
Yeah.
It was truly, I was just like, why are these fish eating it this good? It confused me. I was like, man, it's about to go down. And that's the crazy thing about fork. It takes one spot 5 minutes for the whole day to change.
Yeah, no doubt. And I don't remember if it was day 2 or day 3, but I saw Capo get him going on one spot, and he got a couple bites in quick succession on that walking bait, that topwater walking bait. And when I saw that, and I saw him catch them back to back. I was like, oh, this tournament just changed. Because if they're either on that big square bill or that topwater walking bait, you can catch them so much faster than you can even on a glide bait or a big swim bait. Those glide baits and big swim baits, you have to fish them so slow, you can't catch them as fast. But that walking bait and that square bill, you can catch them quick, and then you get that whole school going, and then you see what happened this morning, and it goes nuts.
Yeah, and that's what I told the guys at Bassmaster that we did the interview beforehand. And I told them, I said, this tournament's going to completely change by the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, those fish were moving so fast from spawn to post-spawn, and those pre-spawners were still coming in, that everybody was so hyped up on bed fishing. And I was going to bed fish because there was that many fish on the bank, but that's not what I wanted to do. And as soon as I caught that first one on the point, I was like, we're running points. Like you said, you can catch them. You can catch 30 pounds so much quicker. You can catch it in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Where if you're bed fishing, it takes you 3 hours at least, you know.
Absolutely, man. I don't know how much you got to talk to Quentin today at the weigh-in or after the tournament, but man, I felt my heart sank for him today because he was so consistent. And we talked about this at Saturday's weigh-in. You were there, and you're the one that said it. Here's your next Lake Fork champ talking about Quentin. And I really thought he was going to win because of the consistency and the way he was fishing. He was doing it right, and he was running and gunning and giving himself a lot of chances to collide with a magical school. And he was so close. Like, he never really got close to the lead today, but people that don't know what was happening on the water and, like, understand it from that perspective, he was, like, so close. So he starts on the point that you end up catching most of your weight on. He leaves there, goes, runs, and catches a few more fish. And
I don't think he started there.
Okay.
I think he started up.
Yeah, he started up on the east side.
Yeah, up the east side, and I started on the thick fin, and then I went to the other side of Little Caney on that main lake point, and that's when I saw him run back in there, and I was like, oh, dang, that was Capo. Like, I didn't realize he was fishing in back here. Mm-hmm. And then once I left that spot, I ran back in there, and he was sitting on it, and I was like, dang, man, like, there's 4 guys in the top 10 within a quarter mile. So that kind of surprised me.
So then he goes and runs and catches a few fish after he leaves that point you caught your weight on. He comes back to that area and fishes the point that Lee did his damage on and catches a 5-pounder twice. He catches a 5-pounder. He caught the same fish twice on camera. It was crazy. I'll tell you about that in a minute. And then hooks like a 9-pounder and jumps it off like 20 feet from the he just couldn't get a break. He literally was fishing the areas that first and second were catching all their weight on, and it just wasn't his day, and I felt so bad for him, man.
Yeah, I had my money on Capo. Capo's a darn good dude. I like him and his dad both. They are great people. Great fishermen, great people.
Yeah.
And like you said, he had the consistency down.
Yeah.
Like, he was the one who I thought was just going to maintain consistency. I just didn't predict Lee to catch. Why didn't he out there? But that's why they changed and they moved that quick. And Lee saw it coming. I mean, he was probably licking his lips knowing that they were good. They were swimming as quick as they could do it.
Yeah, once they started biting that topwater, it was a different ball game for sure, man, no doubt. Yeah, Quentin, that was an awesome tournament by him. It was just an awesome tournament overall. I got to get out. You know, we've spent plenty of time on this podcast talking about the greatness that is Patrick Walters, right? We have. I've got to call you out on a couple things today.
Here we go.
Let's talk to us about when you tried to make a little snack out of the carpet on your front deck. What happened, man?
Son, I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm heading to Ronnie Moore's house in Little Rock right now. I'm gonna have to ice my leg when I get there. It is throbbing. I think I pulled something in my ankle. Hey, I was thinking back about it, and I'm like, why in the world did I have that much momentum going from the back deck to the front deck? I took a straight up dirt nap. Like, I'm pretty sure my teeth had carpet in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I ate the floor.
Hey, you did it like a
I
G,
haven't
though.
even seen the video yet.
You did it like a G because you didn't fall on the fish or nothing.
No, dude, I was not letting go of that fish.
And you didn't hook yourself.
Straight up death grip.
You know, what it reminded me of was like a college kid that's real drunk and falls but saves the beer. Like, that's how you were with that fish.
Listen, it felt like that because I'm telling you, I felt like I was running to the bow for something like the spot lock, and I got the cameraman's cable. He's got the cell booster.
Right.
He had the cable attached in my flip-flop. My flip-flop caught it, and I'm telling you, I think my foot just like went backwards, and I just straight up face planted. I mean, it was. I would like to see that video because
man down,
dirt on that.
man down, pimp in distress.
Down goes.
I'll
Frederick.
tell you.
That one for a minute.
I'll tell you the one thing that you got going for you in the video of it. You almost can't because of the glare of the sun, but you can barely see that cable that you trip over in the video.
Yeah.
So everybody knows you didn't just fall on your face for no reason. Like there's a cable there, and that makes it a lot more understandable. So you
I
got
don't know how I didn't pull the camera off of his shoulder. Honestly,
Right,
like
right.
I hate that cable going.
yeah.
I mean, because it was pretty funny. He was apologizing. He was like, "What kind of beer do you like? I'm gonna buy you a case of beer the next time." I'm like, "No, dude, you don't owe me anything. Like, it's not your fault. Like, that was my fault for not paying attention to where I was going. Like, he was blaming himself, but no, that's what happens when you get in a hurry. You get a 4-pounder Lake Fork. You're like, I better hurry up and weigh him because there's probably 1,000 more down there.
That's right.
That's what happens when you get
That's how it is. The faster I can throw back in there, the faster I can catch another one, no doubt, man. Now, later in the day, Mr. Walters has it going, and everything's going your way at this moment. Like you're chasing Lee down, you're getting like you were really close to him for a good portion of the day after his morning flurry. You caught up and got within like a pound of him, I think, like a pound 5 ounces or something. So it was a horse race that was entertaining there for a while. But during that flurry that got you there, you catch a really nice one. And then we've seen Patrick Walters land a lot of Lake Fork bass at this point, but I'm not sure we've ever quite seen the grab the salmon by the tail technique before. What was going on there?
Listen, I'm almost talking about, like, if you want to talk about deflated as a balloon gets, I'm over there and I've got like 2 4-pounders and like a 1-4, and I hear Lee's armada of 50 boats over there, like, screaming. It sounded like a college football game. Like, just when he hooked up, and then he landed. It must have been a huge one. And the crowd went wild. Some dude over there freaking blowing the duck call, and my marshal's like, dang, that did look like a big one. And I'm like, man, I'm going to have to leave the creek just so I can fish in peace. And then I catch one, and I'm like, okay. I catch like a 5-pounder, and I hear, woo, like I hear one little woo in the background. Like, I don't know what Lee's catching, but the cameraman's like, well, he's probably just, who knows what he's catching. They're probably just cheering because he caught one. And I'm like, I doubt it. Like, I bet you he's got him. And I just was getting like, and then they started just holy balling those freaking spooks. And I'm telling you, if that doesn't get you nervous when you hook like a 9-pounder on a top water, I'm telling you, my knee was shaking. I definitely was not 100% on landing today. It was pretty rough. It was, however I could get him in the boat was how I was grabbing him today. It was. I was so worried about losing those big suckers that when he made that pass and I missed him, I was just like, nah, you're not going out there for another round. You come back in here. Desperation
grab, and it worked. Like the cool thing is it worked, so it doesn't really matter. Yeah, and for those that don't know Lake Fork and haven't been, because in the camera angles that they were using on live, we can never see Patrick Walters in the background of Lee, and we can never see Lee in the background of Patrick Walters because the cameras were facing the opposite ways, looking towards the areas y'all are fishing. But you can verify this. Like, if all that armada wouldn't have been there, you guys could have seen everything y'all were catching. Y'all could have literally been yelling back and forth to each other about what y'all were catching and probably had a conversation about it. That's how close. I mean, it's not far away from each other at all where y'all were.
Oh, 100%. You could have definitely hit a golf ball.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't that far. Like, so when his armada was echoing in my head, and I'm like, I hadn't caught one yet, and then I hear, like, 2 big woos. I'm talking about, like, roars. Like, I was talking to Polinick at the weigh-in, and he said, like, he opened his camper door, and it was, like, a blast of just people screaming. Like, he heard them from his camper. And I'm like,
that's crazy.
Trust me, you should have been 300 yards away.
Right.
It was definitely, it was hard on you mentally. Because I'm like, okay, well, yeah, he's got him. I was like, yeah, I think I had like a pound on Lee. I think he made that up like an hour ago.
Right. Well, and another interesting thing was Brandon Card, who was the leader, a pretty good lead going into today. He was up the creek a ways from y'all. I mean, y'all couldn't see each other or anything like that. He was around the corner and up the bend and all that. But his hammer hole was not too terribly far from where you guys were throwing down at. And Brandon Carb was up there and he couldn't see anything. He said, but all I could hear was just like you're talking about, just roars of like crowd roars over and over again. And he was up there struggling this morning and just like kind of panicking because he was like, dude, somebody is just destroying them.
Yeah, I can promise you he heard them. And I'm telling you, it's deflating. When you hear a crowd scream that loud, and I mean, dudes, a grown man is over there probably drinking beer at 9 o'clock, screaming at the top of his lungs, you're like, dang, that dude's crushing them.
Yeah.
And you're like,
yeah.
maybe I was dragging a worm or something. Like,
Man,
it'll definitely mess with you're not getting fit.
Have you ever seen anything like that crowd? Because I've been to several of these events like this, and I saw you on the water today, and I tried to film you a little bit, but I stayed way away from you, and I never get real close to guys. But I've driven around and seen flotillas following guys and leaders and things like this. I've never seen anything close to what was trailing Lee today. Have you ever seen anything like that?
I think I've seen it one time, and it was on Van Dam in a classic.
Mm-hmm.
It was Van Dam, but no, I think Fork is one of the best places for a huge armada because everybody here bass fishing.
Right.
You're talking to somebody at the gas station, that guy bass fishing.
Oh yeah.
If you're over there at the laundromat, that guy bass fishing. So everybody in that whole area bass fishing. So everybody's got a boat. And Lee is the local. I mean, he's the favorite. And so everybody, I feel like, was out there pulling for him today. And that's how they should be. You know, they were pulling for the hometown guy. And they showed out. And I'm telling you, I didn't think an armada would mess with somebody as bad as that does. But when you get 50 boats on you, I'm telling you, everybody around you, it's going to mess with a penalty. Because it works. So I think they were it. It got them hyped up today because the man went out there and crushed 42 pounds.
He did. I mean, it was all time. And speaking of all time, I know, obviously, it's a good way to lose if you're going to lose, like you said earlier. Obviously, yeah, that's very true. But even though you didn't win, and I know you want to win because I know you well enough to know that about you, you did accomplish something today that is an all-time special thing that I don't even think, you may not even realize this. But when it comes to catching a Century Club in a Bassmaster tournament, that's a special accomplishment. And you are now one of the very few that have done it twice. I think there's
How many people have done it so far?
I think there's only 3 guys, and you're one of them, dude.
Dang.
Like, yeah, it's special.
That's pretty special. I didn't even realize it for the longest time. I thought he said, I was talking to my marshal, and he was like, yeah, you need a 5-pounder for something, blah, blah, blah. And I thought it was catch 30 pounds, and I caught a 5, and he was like, you're in the Century Club. And I was like, do what? Like, it caught me off guard.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy cow. Like, I mean, I knew we were close to it, but I was like, man, I caught 15 pounds on day 2. I thought there was no way of, like, coming back from that, but it truly is, that place is something special. And to do it, the Crappie Century Mark both on Lake Ford, I mean, it says something special for us to come to Lake Ford 3 years in a row now, and it took over 100 pounds to win, no matter what the time of year was.
No matter what.
The fish were doing.
No matter what. Like, guys show up, it's going to take 100 pounds. In fact, the ironic thing is back in the TTPC days, it was only a 3-day tournament, and it still took 100 pounds. It was 110 pounds for 3 days in 2014, and it was like 90-something for 3 days in 2015. So in 2015, the lake was like literally flooded with tornadoes around it during the tournament, and they still took like 90-something pounds for 3 days.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can tell you, when this lake drops more than like 4 feet, I'm getting a plane ticket and I'm coming out here because I would love to see this place when the water gets down because I guarantee you it would be unbelievable.
Well,
like with it up right now, like, fishing's amazing, but if they get out there and they're like, oh man.
They all get condensed. So, little story for you. The lake got to almost 8 foot low in 2011, and I had just moved back here at the end of 2009 after I got out of the Marine Corps. And I always grew up in Southeast Texas where we just fished mud. Like we fished mud and grass. Like that's what we fished. And so I had never even thought about it. And of course, when I was growing up, the electronics were nothing like they were now. And so I had never even thought about going out and trying to, if we fished offshore or deeper water at all, it's just because Dad knew there was a point in a brush pile over there. It wasn't anything to do with electronics or any of that. So this lake dropping to 7 3/4 foot low in 2011 is probably the best thing that has ever happened to me to help me become a better fisherman. Because when it got that low, they all got condensed offshore, and it made the offshore fishing unbelievably good and really kind of easy at times. But it also forced me to do it. And so me being forced to do it and being on this lake when it was that low and they were that condensed, it gave me a ton of confidence and taught me a lot about fishing offshore. It made me think I was really good at offshore fishing. And then the lake got back full and I tried to offshore fish and I realized I really wasn't that good.
No, that place I can only imagine. That's why when it gets down, call me, because
it's wild, dude.
Only imagine
it's wild.
How good that place is.
It's truly
wild.
wild.
When are you gonna get that gorilla back in there?
Well, it's coming back in some areas this year. I've seen it. We've had some spraying, a couple years running a couple years ago, and it really knocked the grass down real bad. Other than a few isolated areas where it kind of always is, really, really far north in some areas, really shallow. But I have seen some grass down the lake starting to pop back up a little bit here and there already this early in the year, even with the colder temperatures than we normally have. So I'm very, very hopeful that by the end of the summer, we'll start to have enough grass to kind of start targeting fish in different areas that we haven't been able to in a while. And then hopefully, if we don't have to do any spraying this year or next year, by the time we get to the end of next year, we should start to see some of that main lake grass and some of that stuff start to come back into play. Hopefully.
Yeah, if that place could get grass back in it,
bro.
Oh my God.
Bro, and so that's what happened after the drought. When it filled back up, all those areas that were dry started getting grass in them, even down on the main lake. Like all those little pockets across from the Middle Bucket and Oak Ridge and like Alligator and Schoolhouse and all those little pockets that are such good sight fishing pockets right now with big fish, those all had like grass out to 8 foot of water for a couple years after the drought. And you just went out there with whatever you wanted to in 8 foot of water and just caught fish. It was crazy.
That's unreal.
Yep.
Tell you the truth though, like this week, honestly, like when you pick that big glide beta up, I'm throwing a 30-pound boar carbon, like it scares you because you're like, what the heck is about to bite this thing? You're like, this thing's about to get train wrecked and get this bait ripped out of my house. Like, so if it had grass and you were just, oh man, I think you'd have to catch 40 pounds 2 days of the tournament. We're talking about,
it can get that stupid out there. It really can get that stupid out there. Like, that's the bad thing is you guys have been here, 2019, 2020, like 3 years in a row now. You've been here, different times of the year, all that stuff. Y'all haven't hit it right yet. Like, y'all, as good as this is, you haven't hit it right. No, you haven't hit it right. Like,
what do you think hitting it right?
What's that?
Do what?
What was the last thing you said?
I said, what do you think hitting it right would be?
Well, I think hitting it right would be, results would be similar to the 2014 TTBC where it was 110 pounds in 3 days. Hitting it right would mean that the all-time 4-day record would go down and probably go down by a pretty good margin. If you hit it right, it should take between 35 and 40 pounds a day on average to win the event. That's
35 pounds a day?
Between 35 and like a 37. Like that's what Keith Combs had. He had a 37-pound average for 3 days. He never weighed one less than, like his smallest fish out of the 15 he weighed at that 3-day event that he counted, the smallest one was 6 3/4.
6 3/4 was the smallest?
That was his smallest one that he counted out of the 15 he weighed for 3 days. Yeah.
Oh my God. So in today's, with how the lake is right now, do you think that's still possible?
Yeah, no, it definitely is still possible. There's always, everything lined up for that year with Keith Combs. We also had Stetson Blaylock, who was over 100 pounds in 3 days as well. And we had Russ Lane, who was at 99 and change in 3 days. Like, the lake y'all hit it, like, they hit it right. In 2019, when you guys got here, the lake literally flooded the night before the event started, or the all-time record would have went down then, because this pattern that you got a glimpse of the last couple days was in full go when y'all got here in 2019. Until that flood happened, it kind of monkeyed stuff up and they didn't bite as good. Like, we were catching 30-pound bags with guide customers every day the week before y'all got here, and that flood just kind of threw it off a little bit. Still took 115 pounds to win, but it threw it off a little bit because the water rose and they had to open the gates and the water got dirty and it pulled the dirty water down the lake, and it just kind of messed things up. And then last year in 2020, y'all came in the fall and the lake really was in a funk. You know, for Lake Fork, it was in a funk. Of course,
100%.
some guy named Patrick Walters brought the live scope out and showed the whole entire world that, yeah, if you get them, when Lake Fork's in a funk, if you go find trees on active or live target in trees, you know, it's you can still catch them. So that happened. And then this year, it wasn't that anything was wrong, but we had like really cold weather. We're colder than we should be. And we had cold weather the 2 days before the tournament. It was like 35 degrees on Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning before y'all started. And I just feel like we got, with the full moon at the end of the event tomorrow night, we just got between waves. So it wasn't that the lake was off, but it just wasn't quite right. So you guys, in my opinion, the last 3 years y'all been here, you really haven't hit it at its best yet.
That's unreal.
Right.
That's crazy to think that. It's like, yeah, it's 100 pounds of winter time. But you're missing it. It's like, God, that just shows you how good that lake is.
It is.
I mean, it really is. It's unbelievable.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It definitely is. Man, I've got one more thing I want to hit you up on. And so my best friend's name is Zach Watts. You've probably seen him because I know you watch some of my stuff. So you've probably seen him on here before. His name's Zach Watts. So we call him Z-Dub. You know, his initials are Z and W. So we call him Z-Dub. And his son's name is Dylan. So he's D-Dub. And his wife's name is Tara. So she's T-Dub. And you're a W guy. So can we just start calling you P-Dub? Is that something we can do?
Oh, you can do it all day. Yeah, some people already call me P-Dub, so it's
There it
already
is.
fitting.
Patrick P-Dub Walters. Man, my brother, what an awesome event overall, but another great event for Patrick Walters. You keep the ball rolling. Go get that AOY so I'll look like I know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, Billy picked you for AOY, and I don't want to be, you know, don't hold this against me, but I picked John Cox.
You're wrong.
Hey, John's going to make a little rally, I feel like, in the second half of the season. That dude, well, I mean, with as much as he's fishing, he's always on them. But hopefully we can have a great season. You know, we're just going to take it one day at a time. We're going to go into the season with no preconceived notions, you know. Every day is a new day. Just go with fishing.
Well, dude, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you guys for having me. Hopefully we can talk to you soon again, and not next time we come back to Lake Fork.
Well, you're coming back to Texas here pretty soon, and I'll be over there at the Classic, so we'll see you then for sure. And let's stay in touch, and if we can get a day around either side, I know it's a busy schedule as always this time of year, but if we can get a day either side of that, man, me and you will hook up, and I'll take you to a good spot. We'll go lean on some.
Hey, well, let's make it happen. Guys, I appreciate it. Thanks for everything. And if you need anything, y'all just give me a holler. Y'all take care.
Thanks, buddy. Later.
See y'all.
Patrick Walters.
Yeah, Patrick Walters.
So there was one question I wanted to ask him that I didn't get to because I felt like we were getting.
He is my fishing crush. So when he gets on the phone, like, you're not gonna get but too many
Oh,
words.
yeah, I get it. But what I want to know is, so we saw today on the live stream for those who were watching, you saw Brandon Card get the hook in his hand.
Yesterday.
Was it yesterday?
Yesterday was the hook. Yeah.
Yesterday. Okay. Yeah. Whatever. Patrick Walters, as much close quarters combat as he has with these bass and these treble hooks,
And he just bear hugs.
and he just bear hugs them. How do you never get?
Well, because he doesn't grab him in the mouth. That's the whole reason he bear hugs him.
No, he grabs them in the mouth too.
Sometimes if the
Yeah.
So listen, I can answer this because I land enough fish.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
How, like I would
if you see the fish coming in and it's in the top of his head or it's sideways and you can get that bottom lip without touching it,
Yeah.
then you do it. And if you can't, then you belly grab him. And I don't do it like Patrick does, which I'll probably because I'm not.
His is the-
like if I was fishing for $100,000, I probably would do it like he did. But being a guide, I just kind of like grab the line and like just reach under the belly and just kind of ease them in the boat like
Lay
that,
it
right?
on-
Like
yeah,
just kind
lay it
of do
on
this
top of
number, just belly. But yeah, a lot of times when they get treble hooks, you do have to belly grab them. But he gets down there and belly grabs them and if you notice, the hooks are always pointing away from his arm when he
right.
does that. That's how he keeps from getting hooked.
Except for when he falls down over tripping.
And the deal, Card just got unlucky because he pulls up a little bitty fish.
Yes.
And he's thinking it's just a little one, no big deal. And he reaches to grab the lip to unhook it, and the fish just shakes at the most inopportune time and nails him.
Oh.
The worst part of that
Yes.
deal was the dude that tried to do the braid snap it out trick
Went the
monkeyed it
wrong
up
way.
twice. Can you imagine how bad that hurts? Is when somebody tries to do the braid trick and it doesn't work. So he just took that barbed hook and like tried to rip your whole finger off.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's bad juju right there, bro.
Score tracker update. Bass just won.
Yeah. Well, we might have it. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Lee just caught another 8-pounder, honestly.
That was good.
It wouldn't surprise me. You know what we didn't ask him that I wanted to ask him?
What's that?
Over under on how many boats are going to be circling that point that Lee won on for the rest of the week. Like, there's going to be 10 to 15 boats going around that island all week. Probably right now.
Throwing walking baits.
It's almost dark. Probably right now. There's
Throwing
like
baits.
5 boats out there going around that island like a merry-go-round, Jack.
Throwing walking baits. Every single one of them.
Reggie Smith says, hey, Patrick Walters is a really good dude. First time I ever heard him talk so much, and it was good to hear. Patrick is from my experience, that's how he is all the time. He is a great, great guy, and he is
as good as they come.
I mean, he just did something today that puts him in all-time class. 2 Century Clubs. Folks, he's 27 and been on the tour for like 2 or 3 years.
And then takes an hour out of his day to talk to us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's as
yeah,
good as
after
it gets.
grinding.
Yes.
Dude, that's what I love about these guys. When I get to go up there and talk to them, and you're going to see a lot of interviews in tomorrow night's video from behind the scenes. Every one of these guys is so open and willing with their time and open with their knowledge and their information and their perspectives. Right. And Patrick's no exception, man. Mental grind for 7 days, because that's what that is. 3 days of practice, 4 days of tournament fishing. It is a daylight to dark, mind never stops working, mental grind. And they still have the respect, are humble enough to take the time to talk to anybody, because we are nobody in the grand scheme of bass fishing. We are nobodies in this industry.
That's right.
And so they take the time to talk to us, and it just says a lot about who they are. Yeah, it really does. And Patrick's, he's awesome, man. Really big fan of the guy. He's going to be, and I've said this, I know.
He'll be one of the greats.
I think he'll be one of the all-time greats. Here's a great question. Clayton says, isn't that spot on Fish Life? Yes, it is. The spot where Lee won the tournament is on Fish Life, and it is actually on there in March, and we left it on there in April because obviously it's still pretty good. It's still got some fish on it. So if you want to go test your skills against Lee Livesay, might not recommend that, but if you want to see how much better he is than you,
yeah, I was going to say, how bad do you want to feel about your fishing ability?
you can subscribe to the Fish Life app and subscribe to the Lake Fork Premium Package, and you can go fish that spot he was on by that island in Little Caney. You'll find it. It's easy to find.
So, funny story. I was talking to Cody Mays last night on the phone. He called me and we were talking about the live and the leaderboard and all that stuff. And he said, "Man, who you got tomorrow?" I said, "Man, I'm gonna be rooting for Lee for sure." And he said, "Yeah, me too." And I said, if Lee catches 40, I said, that's what he says is swimming there. Like he said, there's 40 pounds swimming here. If I catch 40 pounds, I got a chance. I said, if he can
when you catch 40 pounds, you got more than a chance, dog.
Well, right, but just where he was positioned.
Right, no, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what he was saying, but like, you go catch 40 pounds, it's game over.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. But just given the situation, we were saying if everybody else's pattern held true, 40 gives him a chance. And he went out and freaking executed. Like
He did execute.
that was his good execution.
Bro, he's throwing a topwater treble hook bait. I don't think he lost a single fish all day.
I didn't see one he lost. Yeah. So
I don't think he lost a single fish all day. So execution, yeah.
100%.
Yeah. As good as you can.
I've never seen a dude. Isn't he like 6'5", 6'4"?
No, he's not 6'5". He's probably about 6'2", 6'3". He's taller than me, and
About my size?
I'm 6'6". He's taller than me. Height wise,
About my height,
he
yeah.
might be an inch taller. He's about
Right.
your height.
So okay, I've never seen a dude that big reel something in, drop a rod, pick up another rod, fire out there and catch a fish. Like he was throwing the glide bait this way.
Yeah.
They come up schooling over here, and he's got a 55-yard cast out. And he's like, hold on, drop it.
Did you see him? He almost went out of the boat several times today.
yeah.
He was casting it so he was casting like leaning forward
Yeah.
so hard that he was almost going out of the front of the boat.
Mm-hmm.
It was an awesome performance.
Not only is Lee a better fisherman than us, you can't make a cast as far as Lee can either. Did you see some of those ball casts he was making?
No, yeah, I did.
Bro.
Well, I mean, I can with my Lose reels, and if you want something, no, I'm just kidding.
Pushing the code. Yeah. No,
I mean, my loons do cast really far,
Oh,
but
yeah.
no, Lee was getting. Well, he's a tall guy with a lot of whip, like tall,
right.
big frame guy. He's a big dude now.
Yeah.
He's a big dude.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got a lot of whip in his frame. He's a long guy, long, wide
dude,
guy.
some of those casts, like
And
he
then
cast
you
and
get
I'm
the
like,
right equipment, the right reels, the right rod, the right line set up. You have the ability to cast. You tune your reel loose because you have the ability to cast. And yeah, he's slinging it, dude. He's getting
Bro,
it out there.
They were talking about it. He'd make a cast. They'd be talking on live. They'd get 2 sentences, and then you'd see.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, it's a 70-yard cast.
He was letting it rip. He was tuned in every way you could be tuned in.
Bro, that was so awesome. Like, I was kind of
Well,
tired.
you don't go catch 42 pounds on top water without being pretty tuned in. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Like, you better have all that stuff going your way if you think you're going to go catch 42 pounds on the top water.
I was kind of tired this morning. I went to bed late last night. I stayed up till about 1:30, 2 o'clock. Woke up this morning. I got a little sleep in my eyes. The first 12 minutes of live go by, and I'm like,
Who needs Red Bull?
what is going on?
Because I know you're a Red Bull man.
Not anymore.
You used to be.
Yep, I did used to be. Yeah, that's... You talk about another guy that freaking 9-pounder he caught. How did you not get a handful of treble hooks there? Because that fish had the bait.
Yeah, but
That
it's
was
a
all I'm
9-pounder, so the bottom half of his mouth
I
is
get it.
bigger
I get it.
than a normal 3 or
I
4
get it.
pounder's mouth.
But you
So
got a guy like
it's
Lee who's got a hand like a giant.
that dude, if you ever shake his hand,
Huge hands.
and I used to say, I made a joke about this on a live stream before he was on the Elite Series, when he was guiding.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about like guide wars and guide drama, and I said, I tell you what, I'm not saying I can whoop anybody out there, but I wouldn't be scared to fight anybody out there that guides on Lake Fork, except Lee
Yes.
Livesay, because I've shook his hand.
Oh, yeah.
And that man's got the hardest, biggest bear paw you've ever shook. Like if he open hand slaps me, I'm gonna fold up and cry like a little girl.
Yeah.
Like that dude can knock you out with an open hand. I'm telling you, he's got some big old strong hands on him.
Think about them fish when he sets a hook on them. Think about how they feel. You gotta go to the chiropractor.
Probably isn't too bad because he's 100 yards away from him when he sets the hook.
I mean, pretty much put a clothes hanger in your mouth and just jerk as hard
You
as
know
you
what?
can.
I would love to see Lee Livesay do like a monofilament fishing line challenge, because when he casted 150 yards,
Yeah.
the rubber band effect on that at 80 yards out has to be pretty exaggerated.
Oh, on the hook set, you could probably walk it like a tightrope for a brief
Like there's a
second.
reason he's throwing braid, because he needs it to set the hook 800 yards from the fish.
That's right. That's right.
What a cool event, man.
Dude.
What a cool event. Awesome stuff.
Yep. The if you know how we always hear people talk about Fork and they're like, "Oh, Fork ain't what it used to be." Blah 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 blah. Yeah, shut up.
Cody Mays says, so that point that Lee won on, Cody Mays says, that's where we started the day you caught the 11. The day that I caught the 11 off of bed, Cody Mays started us off that day with a decent little fish on that point. That's right. Sure did. Sure did. Sure did. I won't be able to start there anymore.
Not for at least a year.
I won't, unless I go over there and wait in line right now, then I might be able to start tomorrow morning on if I got in line right now.
Grab a ticket and wait in line, please, sir.
Yeah. Greatest derby ever, says somebody. Man, I don't know if it's the greatest fishing tournament ever. It's my personal favorite.
Yeah.
Because of hometown Lee winning, because of the way he won 42 pounds on topwater baits, like the blubs we got to see, the bites we got to see today, Patrick Walters being a friend and being involved, and just all these guys that I get to meet these days and talk to, and watching it go down on my home lake, and the versatility that we saw from Lake Fork. Like, Lake Fork really displayed a lot of versatility this week, because just inside the top 10, you had shellbed shad spawn, a lot of that. You had a few guys. You had 2 guys that were like exclusively sight fishing. You had another guy, Chad Morgenthaler, that was like just shallow water fishing, just jump fishing, flipping, swim, jigging, whatever have you. You had Brandon Card, who was doing something nobody was thinking about doing. He was cranking a creek channel that bottoms out in like 15 foot of water.
How about Taku Ito?
Taku Itu is doing whatever Taku Itu does, which, I mean, he's swimming a wacky worm on a jig head. Like,
What?
not even Zach Watts would think to do that with a wacky worm, and that's all that guy throws. I mean, yeah, the diversity of Lake Fork and the different types of areas and different type of techniques that were in the top 10 alone, it really displays what kind of a lake we're dealing with in a lot of ways when you think about it like that.
Yep.
Like, it kind of looks like, okay, well, if you're really good at fishing, you just go out there and do whatever you want to, and you'll catch 20 pounds. And that's basically what we saw this week.
Mm-hmm. I just saw a comment that says Monday we go back to where'd the fish go. And that just goes to show you how good
Now
these guys
that shows
are.
you how good they are,
That's right.
because there is a lot to be said for that
That's
too.
right.
And I've said this before, and I think I understand the mythology about fishing guides, because before I was a fishing guide, like when I first moved back to this area in 2009 through 2013, 14, when I really started to get to know more of these fishing guides, man, I looked at those fishing guides as they were just like, holy cow, good. And to be honest with you, a lot of them are holy cow good. But none of them are as good as those guys. The only one that was Lee. And Lee was hands down the best when he was guiding here. And he's gone on it. And, of course, he's worked and got better since he's gotten on the Elite Series. But those guys are significantly better than any of us running around that lake guiding, myself included. And I don't even put myself in the top tier fishermen amongst the guides on Lake Fork. There's a lot of guys that got a lot more bass fishing skins on the wall than I would ever hope to have in that group that guides at Lake Fork. But none of those guys guiding on Lake Fork could go in that tournament and compete. Like, maybe they could beat like some of the guys, but they're not as good as that field. That field, those guys are unbelievably good. Unbelievably good. I mean, when I was watching Patrick towards the end of the day today on the water, he was doing his live scope deal, and I got to see him doing that, and I was like, he is so precise. Like, he's turning that thing around, and he sees one, and he locks in on it. He kind of leans and gets this little exact cast. He goes, just twitch, twitch, twitch. And then you can tell when a fish reacts to his bait because he changes the cadence on it. Mm-hmm. And he had one followed up to the boat, and he was like twitching it back and forth around the boat. And I was just like, this dude is freaking amazing. Like, he's a machine with that thing.
Aim small, miss small.
He's good. Like, and they're all that good at something. Like, Patrick is that good at the live scope, jerk bait. They're all that good at something, and they're all really extremely good at everything. It's unbelievable how good that field is.
Their worst technique is better than my best technique. You know what I mean?
Damn right.
Yeah, I mean, it's no other way to put it.
You damn right, son.
It's crazy.
I will definitely drink to that, man. This has been a great podcast.
I would like to reiterate that I did call it. I called it. I got it correct. I got something right! It's a means for a celebration.
Michael McDaniel says Lee ran the Mark Pack pattern. When you commit to that pattern, it's like hitting a home run. Yeah, so I'll address that part first. Yes, Mark Pack to me is the guy that pioneered the shallow shell bed pattern. He was the OG of that. He was the guy that really dialed that in the best first. And so a lot of what we saw in this tournament is due to Mark Pack. Now, somebody else would have figured it out eventually, but yeah, Pac-Man's the guy that pioneered this technique. No doubt about it. And he was extremely good at it, obviously, but he passed it on because he's Pac-Man, and that's what he did. He passed it on to a lot of other fishing guides. I mean, he passed it on to guys that I've learned from. So, in a lot of ways, the little that I know about shallow shell beds and shad spawn is from Mark Pack, second generation. We miss Pac-Man. He passed away earlier this year, January 9th, way too soon. But, it was cool that this tournament was won on his deal. And the one in 2019 one as well. Brandon Cobb. We got a Brandon Card and a Brandon Cobb out there. Brandon Cobb won in 2019 with 115 pounds in 4 days, and it was on the same deal. It was on the shad spawn on shallow points. Dusty Blackman done beat you there. I don't even know what that comment means.
Look at what Dusty said.
What was the other part of that question? 'Cause it was good. Still surprised nobody got on the Carolina rig, but not today. I wasn't. On the days where it was slower, I was surprised that guys weren't throwing. And I did see Patrick actually pick it up and throw it a little bit on day 3.
He did on day 3.
But honestly, the way these elite guys like to fish, they want to fish fast. So it wasn't too terribly surprising, but I figured we would see it a little bit. Today, though, when they started out and they're biting that top water, no, I'm not surprised we didn't see the Carolina Reaper. Once I saw what was going down with Lee right off the bat, I was like, I did not expect to see a Carolina Reaper.
I ain't gonna lie. When I seen the walking bait go down day 3,
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh, he changed the whole tournament.
bro,
Changed the whole
this is
tournament.
about to get dumb.
All right, here's a fantasy fishing comment. I don't know much about fantasy fishing, but Tom Mix says, want to hear the biggest fantasy fishing mistake ever. I had Lee in bucket A and Zaldane in bucket E until about 2:30 in the morning. Don't ever make changes that late at night. I definitely don't need to make decisions at 2:30 in the morning because those 2:30 in the morning decisions typically involve whiskey. Or apparently 8:30 decisions involve whiskey with me. I don't know.
At times. At times.
Allegedly.
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 Always allegedly.
Always allegedly.
I remember a couple fantasy football deals, a couple decisions I made late at night back in the day.
Bro,
that were not great.
your sober fantasy football decisions weren't always great.
Sometimes they're.
Like, fantasy football was not your thing.
That's why I'm glad I don't play it anymore.
No, you joined the league. One of the leagues you joined was a league that I was like the commissioner of, and you were awful.
Yeah, I don't really like football.
Like, I love you like a brother. You're family to me, and you know that. But you were terrible.
I don't like football.
On a different level of terrible. Like, you weren't even like, well, this guy just doesn't know what he's doing. He's new to it. No, you were like bad.
But
Like, you'd call me about decisions you were making in your lineup, and I'm like, why on earth would you do that?
well, because I don't know football. And I still beat Zach Watts that year.
Hey!
Shots fired.
Shots fired!
Oh, Lord.
What about Zaldane? He committed to the swim bait deal the whole time. I mean,
Bro,
he went.
Okay, so.
Zaldane was in full sin mode since before he ever got to Fork. Like, he showed up, like, his practice was done before he got here. He knew he was going to run points. He knew mostly what points he was going to run, and he knew he was going to throw a glide bait the whole time. Like, he pretty much didn't need to practice.
Yeah. So somebody just commented a Roll Tide deal. And
Roll Tide.
Look, let me just, for the record, state that I am by no means an Alabama hater. I grew up watching Alabama, rooting for them because of my dad. But I'm an Aggie through and through, so thanks and gig 'em. That's all I got to say about that.
Glide bait, you got nothing to say about that?
About a glide bait?
Zaldane was in full sin mode. We were talking about glide baits in Lake Fork, and you went on to Roll Tide.
Sorry, I saw
like,
it.
who
It
even
just-
pays attention to Roll Tide when we're talking about glide baits in Lake Fork? You know what? I don't know if you even need to be part of this podcast anymore.
Well, let me explain something to you about the glide bait. If there was anybody that was going to commit to that pattern and
It
live
was
and
him.
die by it, it's him. Because he threw it in the Classic
He sure did.
for 4 days. And did well. Just like he did
I
this
know,
tournament.
I
Did
know.
well with it. But one thing I will say,
He's like bound and determined to be the first guy to win a tournament wire to wire on nothing but a glide bait.
but one thing I will say, the break-off fish,
That was hard.
that was hard.
That was hard to watch.
Really hard to watch.
That one and the 9-pounder that Capo jumped off.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah. See, and
But why was he so like?
I don't know. We talked about this a little bit
I guess he
beforehand.
was just that hyped up for the event, but he was like, I don't know that I've ever seen Zaldane. It wasn't that he was like panicking about the fish he was catching because he was reeling them in and boat flipping them like
anxious.
you're supposed to.
He was very anxious.
But he was so wired up, like he had like happy feet on his deck every time he would hook one. I've never seen him quite in that mental state before.
It's like a BC powder
I've
and
never
Mountain
s-
Dew mixture.
Yeah. Too much Red Bull. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He was fired up today, dude.
So one thing, and again, he's a much better swim bait fisherman than me, so I'm not trying to cast much shade at all. But to me, when you're fishing a glide bait, just reel. Like once they bite, just keep
well, and
reeling.
he did,
Without all the other.
but he was if you watch what he did with the rod and reel, he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Like he just reeled him in and boat flipped him. But if you watch the rest of his body language, you're like, dude, are you okay?
Yeah.
Like, do you need
Yeah.
a Prozac? You need to calm down.
Well,
like,
that's what I'm saying. Like
you take a shot there, Saturday. Like he was going nuts every time he'd hook one.
It's like he was doing bass fishing CrossFit edition. like he was tripping out.
Yeah,
And
he was.
I was like, for a second, I'm eating a bowl of cereal.
It just shocked me because I've never seen Zaldane be that. Like, we've seen him get excited, especially after he lands a fish.
Correct.
But I've never seen Zaldane hook a fish and immediately start going nuts.
Like, the closest thing to what we saw today for Zaldane was the big flutter spoon in Guntersville. Right? He pulls up right before the tournament's over. Like right.
Yeah, but even then, he was just setting the hook and reeling. He wasn't doing all that crazy stuff.
I know, but I'm saying that's as wired up as I've seen.
Right.
So
and he was wired up and frustrated because he was losing fish. And, right at the last minute. But one more thing about Zaldane.
I thought I was watching Ike and Ellie for a minute today.
One more. Oh God.
I mean, really.
That might be a little harsh.
I mean,
because there wasn't like all that yelling. And I don't know that Zaldane has the ability to yell at the volume that Ike yells.
I don't think many people do.
I don't think
Marine Corps drill sergeants do.
Some of them don't.
Yeah.
And they're drill instructors, dog. The Army has drill sergeants. Don't you ever insult my beloved Corps like that again.
Fair.
Did y'all see me knife hand him right there? All my fellow Marines are going to love that. They'll love that.
Yeah.
How about this?
Come on.
The eyewear on Chris Zaldane. He's wearing.
Did he have the pit vipers?
He's wearing fishing pit vipers.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Somebody just commented, said Zaldane caught more pounds than any bass fisherman in the history of the sport while wearing welding goggles. I'm just reading the comments, Zaldane. I didn't say that.
Can we? Is that weld gonna pass an X-ray? It weighs 8 pounds.
He had that glide bait welded to his hands today, I guarantee you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Golly. But yeah, dude, as far as like somebody with a big bait of that stature in their hands, it doesn't surprise me.
No.
Not at all.
No.
And he'll probably throw it quite a bit.
He'll probably, who knows? He might be on shallow points. And as cold as things are staying this year,
might be pretty good.
He might be catching the post spawn shad chasers on Ray Roberts with the glide bait.
Which, with Ray Roberts being one of those DFW lakes, dude, those lakes are weird, man. They fish way different.
Ray Roberts has got some big old fish in it.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Some really big fish.
But they fish way different than the lakes out here in East Texas.
Kyle Crawford. We call that the glide bait shuffle all over the front deck after the hook set. Yeah. He was doing, that's what it was. He was doing the glide bait shuffle.
He was moonwalking.
Yeah, pretty much.
And welding goggles, that's funny. Whoever commented that wins the internet today.
Where was that? It was Jim Richards.
Jim Richards, you win
Here it
the
is.
internet today.
Jim Richards at 8:29 p.m. said Zaldane caught more pounds than any dude ever in welding goggles. Nailed it, Jim Richards. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. We appreciate the contribution you made to the show.
Jim Richards, 2024. Let's go. Let's go, Jim.
Yeah. Just start a Twitter account saying crazy stuff. You probably get elected. Apparently, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
You know, you got Trump that just says crazy stuff that nobody thinks they'll hear. Then you got Biden that says crazy stuff that nobody understands. That's just how you get elected. You say crazy stuff, right? That's.
But we'll circle back to fishing. So, anyways. That's good.
Yeah.
Well done.
I think this might be the best podcast we've ever done.
Ever.
Like normally we get over with our podcast. I'm like, yeah, we're pretty bad at it.
We were flat.
We're pretty bad at this podcast. I think tonight we actually did good.
Yeah, we did.
For us, we did outstanding.
Oh, what? This is like extra credit.
We nailed it.
Nailed it.
By our standards.
Oh, speaking of,
y'all drop the comments and let us know how we did tonight. I'm actually proud of this work for once.
Are you gonna throw any walking baits this week? Like any at all?
I've got a whole box full of nothing but big topwater walking baits. And I'm probably going to have 5 different ones tied on my rods in the morning when I go out. In fact, we got to hurry and wrap this up. You got to get, like, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here because I got to go there and pull out my top secret walking baits and tie them on. There's a whole lot of top secret stuff when it's something about that long, white, and in a stick shape. You know, like that's what you need.
I got sticky fingers. What? I'll help you tie some on.
We've finally done what we normally do. We've gone off the rails and missed the track, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you guys so much for watching. What an epic event. Thank you to Bassmaster one more time. Thank you to Dave Mercer for the help this week. Thank you to Miss Mandy over there at Bass for the help this week as well. And thank you to all the anglers that took time to talk to us this week. It meant so much to me personally. I am very, very humbled to get to experience what I experienced all week this week. It was my honor and my privilege, and it was one of my favorite weeks I've ever had in this industry. Congratulations, Lee Livesay.
Hammer.
All-time epic stuff today, bro. You are now a legend forever in Lake Fork lore as far as I'm concerned, my man. Great freaking job. Thanks to Patrick Walters for taking the time after a long, grueling grind of a tournament. Really appreciate him taking the time to talk to us as always. Most importantly, thank each and every one of y'all for watching tonight. Chris, do that thing you do.
I think Mount Forkmore has a new addition.
Ooh, one more thing before we go. That island in Little Caney,
Yeah.
we got the pig pen out of this tournament. We got the hammer hole.
Yeah.
That island is now Lee Island.
Lee Island.
That's it. That's what
I
we're
love
calling
it.
it. That's Lee Island. See y'all next time.
Jim Richards 2024.